Hey, what's up, guys? It's Brett with BTG Hunting here, and today we're going to be talking about calling deer. And specifically, we're going to be talking about the grunt call, which is personally my favorite call. There's a couple different kinds. I use this extinguisher one a lot. It's got different tones, which is kind of nice, but I typically just run it on the buck call deeper. And I also have a flex tone, one that's adjustable, and you can get different noises out of it by adjusting it and whatnot too. They're both good calls. I like both of them. I did switch to the extinguisher, but I also like this flex tone grunt call as well. So, but let's talk about what time of the year you're gonna be using a grunt call, because you're not gonna want to just take your grunt call out in the woods and start blasting it in the middle of October. Bucks aren't chasing does at that time of the year, and it's just not gonna sound right. You're gonna pretty much spook deer. They're gonna be like, what's going on? That no does are in heat, and that's just not what we want to be doing. We don't want to be scaring deer off middle of October with the rut rolling around in a couple weeks. Um, so for me, I hunt southeast Michigan a lot, primarily in kind of that whole strip, Pennsylvania across through upper Indiana, most of Indiana, most of Ohio, Wisconsin, Iowa, most of Illinois, maybe northern Missouri, Kansas. The pre-rut starts the last week of October, and that's when you're going to start thinking about busting out the grunt call and taking it out of the woods with you. Um, Typically around like the 25th to the 28th, you really can see the woods kind of coming to life. Bucks are on their feet more in the morning. They're starting to get a little antsy. They're starting to kind of check those out, even though they're not coming into heat yet to breed. They're ready for it. They're getting ready. They know it's coming, especially the older deer. And so probably starting around like the 28th to right up, by November 1st, you definitely can grunt at deer. Does are coming into heat then. The first round of does are getting bred right around then, the first or second or so. Could be a couple days either way. It's not like a hard rule, but that's kind of the general guidelines. So that's a good time to start using the grunt call, and then that can carry on all the way into the end of November, early December. And there's actually a secondary rut where the does get bred that didn't get bred in the primary rut, which is early to mid-November. And then there's actually a trickle rut, which is a lot less breeding, but there's yearling fawns that can get bred if they come into heat, and whatever other does didn't get bred. But the main breeding window is that early November to early December range. So let's start talking about when to use a grunt call. Like, we're out in the woods and we see a buck. Well, if the buck's coming at us, we don't want to just get on the grunt call and call to him. There's no reason. If he's walking in, if we're watching him and he's coming right at us, let him do his thing. Let him come into you. Don't call at him. Don't alert him to your presence. You're just tipping him off at that point. But if you see him, 50 yards or whatever, 100 yards, something like that, out, and he's not coming at you, that's a great time to call. Um, you know, that's when you want to give him a couple grunts and see if you can't get his attention. Maybe he looks, maybe goes back to doing what he's doing. Hit him with another couple grunts, just like two, maybe three. You don't want to overdo it. Less is more with calling deer. You don't want to be sitting there going crazy on the grunt call. Just a couple grunts, and we'll get into that in a second too, how to call them. But see what he's doing, read his body. If he's not turning towards you, if you hit him with a couple grunt calls and he doesn't turn and start coming towards you, you probably aren't going to get him to come in. It could just be for whatever reason. Sometimes they come and sometimes they don't. It just depends on the deer. It depends on what's going around you. I had a monster 10 point one time. He was bumping does around, chasing does, and he came out at 70 yards. And he came out, he started walking away. I hit him with a double grunt, like, "Meow, meow," and he turned, he spun around, and I was like, oh boy, we're in business. And he just looked at me, and he stood there, and he kind of started to turn around broadside to me and kind of put his head down and was sniffing the ground. And I hit him with another call, just a "Meow," and he looked and just kind of stood there and looked, and he just turned around and walked away from me. But I didn't want to overdo it. He had does. It was literally, October 28th. He was starting to kind of get antsy with some does, and he wasn't interested in me. He had 3 or 4 does. I can't remember. It was 3 or 4. And I'm not going to get his attention if he's on some hot does or does that are getting close to coming into breeding. So there's a scenario where it just didn't work out, and it is what it is. But I lived to fight another day, and I actually had that same deer walk out like 3 days later on camera, and I was at work. I wasn't in stand, which was a bummer. But I didn't spook him out of the air. I didn't spook him out of the area. So that's always a consideration. You don't want to overdo it and blow out your spot, and then have him know something's up. So, and sometimes blind calling can work. Like I've had hunts where I got an hour to go, or an hour. It's late morning, and I get to sit in the stand for another hour. There's a scenario where I shot an 8 point, and I was like, I got an hour to go, and I just let a couple grunts go, and it was November 2nd, and what do you know, a 8 point comes literally right under my stand, kind of comes out into the food plot, and he was quartering away from me, and I put a really nice shot at him right through the heart, and got it done there. But blind calling doesn't normally work. It's not what I really recommend. It's kind of just a Hail Mary, throw out 2 or 3 grunts real quick, and see what happens. Sometimes it can work for you. And then, another example of a deer coming back for a grunt would be, actually, I don't have him on the wall yet. He's at the taxidermist. But I shot a 160-inch class 9 point this year with my bow, and there was all kinds of ruckus going on, and I couldn't see because where it is, it's really thick in front of me, and I got a shooting lane to my right and a shooting lane to my left, and off to behind me I can't really see either. But I hear just ruckus going on, and it sounds like a couple deers are running around. I'm sure it's a doe. I hear some grunting, and lo and behold, a doe comes ripping in under my stand. She's huffing, she's puffing, and here comes some little dinkus spike, and she starts running. He's hot on her tail, and then here comes another 8 point that I have a bunch of trail cam photos of, who will probably be a good deer in 2 years or so. He's probably two and a half right now, and they chase her out. But then they go ripping off, and maybe 5 seconds later, I hear a slow trot and a burp, burp, just a couple grunts, and I'm like, oh boy, here we go, because I had this deer on trail camera from the night before, and he was why I was down there that day. And he comes out at 50 yards. I don't have a shot, and that's a long shot anyways for, putting a 50-yard shot on a deer. If you can do that, good on you. I usually max shoot about 30 or 40. 40 would be pushing it for me. I feel pretty comfortable shooting at 30 all day. But so he comes out at 50. He hits the trail, starts heading away from me. I hit him with a couple grunts. He's not really paying attention. I'm like, crap. I threw up a little prayer to the big guy. And I felt like minutes, but it was probably maybe 30 seconds to a minute tops. And I hear some rustling over my left shoulder down in the brush where I can't see. And I'm like, oh boy, here we go. So I pick up my bow, and he popped out right at 17 yards. He comes out in the shooting lane. I was already drawn back, and he actually looked up at me, and that was the last thing. He looked up, and I knew I had to shoot, because he actually jumped the arrow at not much, but at 17 yards, he dropped probably 1.5 inches on the shot. So there's a time where, I'm not sure if the grunt worked or not, but it was either the grunt tube or, the big guy was helping me out that day. So, but yeah, the grunt tube is a great tool, and you need to have it on you. I always have it on me when I go out into the woods, um, and not if you're hunting does in early October or whatever, I don't take it. Or if you're just trying to fill a doe tag, you don't take your grunt tube. Maybe a bleat can or something, maybe, but I don't even bother with those personally. But yeah, just keep it around my neck. If a deer comes in, I tuck it in real quick, keep it out of the way so it's not dangling around, bouncing off me, bouncing off my bow, gun, whatever. Um, and yeah, so I usually run them deep on the full tone, or like on the flex tone, I extend it a little bit, maybe halfway, give it a little halfway. And all you want to do, guys, is you're not trying to, it's not a it's not a band or anything. You're not trying to make a ton of noise. You're just trying to get out a couple grunts. Like, that's one scenario. That's usually my go-to, just a little double grunt. Or you could hit them with a little triple, like something like that. Um, I usually do the double grunt or a single. If I'm being honest, I don't usually do the triple. Just for me, I don't know. You want to do the triple grunt, go for it. Sometimes, and the more time you spend in the woods, the more deer you hear grunting, the more bucks you hear chasing and grunting. You kind of get an idea for it. But yeah, sometimes it's just get them to stop, see what they're doing, watch their body language. He doesn't turn at you, give him a second. Maybe wait till he looks away so he can't pinpoint you right as you grunt again, give him a second, and maybe hit him with another little double grunt, and just read him, just see what's going on. And if he doesn't come walking in, it is what it is. Maybe he'll circle back. Sometimes year two, they hear you and they're gonna go circle, hopefully not downwind, or they're gonna go check out things, smell, and loop back in. And then that's your opportunity there. But you don't want to go crazy. You don't want to keep calling to them. You don't want to keep causing a ruckus, because then they just know they're smart. Especially the older the deer are, the smarter they are. 2.5-year-old deer are pretty dumb. But once you start getting into the 4.5, 5.5-year-old deer, they get smart fast and they know what's real and what's not. So less is more usually. You don't want to overdo it. Then what was? Thought I had one more thing to say, but so, anyways, guys, I hope you liked the video. We're new on YouTube, but we're gonna be making more content for you guys, more how-tos. Gonna be filming hunts this fall. And yeah, I'm excited. And all right, say it.